Welcome. I hope your belief in the law of attraction is growing. And today, I want to talk about robotic affirmations and if they quote unquote work. Before we get started, as always, I love to hear from you. So leave your comments and success stories below and consider subscribing and liking the videos if you have found them helpful. So, the concept of robotic affirmations has become quite polarizing in manifestation, law of attraction circles, and I can understand why. So, do robotic affirmations work? Some people will say they are the only things that work, and others have no faith whatsoever. So, here's another opinion for you to weigh. I actually do think they work, and I will tell you about a time I used this technique and it worked instantly. Now, I'm not saying that everything you affirm robotically will manifest instantly, although it is possible. What I am saying is that although it is possible for robotic affirmations to work in any amount of time, the concept of time and how long it takes for your manifestation is why some people say they don't work. See, if you expect something within a certain amount of time and you don't see it, you'll be disappointed and lose faith. It's just natural. So we can't say this or that method does not work because it didn't happen in a certain amount of time. This applies to all techniques, not just robotic affirmations. When you put a time limit or expectation on something, you are trying to manifest or bring this thing into reality under a time constraint. You're making it harder for that thing to happen. Imagine you're an architect trying to design a building, a revolutionary building, and then you have people around you with zero knowledge of how to build a building telling you that this stage of the process or even the entire building needs to be completed by a certain unrealistic date. And yes, things can happen instantly, but in most cases, they happen faster than expected when you aren't so focused on when they happen. So this is why some people say they don't work when in fact they do or can work. And if robotic affirming is not for you, that's fine. But I and many others know that they work. So what are they? What are robotic affirmations? Basically, robotic affirming using robotic affirmations are affirmations that are stated mentally or out loud repeatedly without worrying so much about garnering up some intense emotions. Okay, but I thought feeling is the secret. How can they work if you aren't feeling what you're saying? Because a statement said enough times, though false, will harden into fact. They work because in order to manifest, you need to impress the subconscious mind with the belief of what you want. You may currently be filled with opposing beliefs, so, good luck trying to pluck all of those out if most of us have difficulty even getting to the root of why we have these limiting beliefs. If we can't even get to the root of what we believe in most cases, where our negative beliefs started or limiting beliefs, however you want to think about them, good luck going deep enough and trying to pluck out all of those beliefs before planting new ones. And this is where robotic affirming can be helpful. You are planting so many positive seeds into your subconscious mind that even though you consciously may not believe in the beginning, you may not believe it now, eventually you will believe it. And when you get to the point where the positive beliefs outnumber the underlying negative limiting beliefs, You will have the belief that is necessary for your manifestation to appear to you in your current reality. So imagine a forest. How do forests transition from one type to another? All the old plants aren't taken out. It's just that new growth, new plants, new trees, new life begins to take over. It's the same with, your gut bacteria. You get rid of the bad bacteria by growing larger colonies of the good bacteria. So when you robotically affirm, you essentially are dusting those crops with positive, controlled beliefs that you want. You are focusing your attention in the direction that you want. And by focusing your attention, that is how you manifest. Robotic affirmations or robotic auto-suggestions work in this way, and they are incredibly effective in stopping negative thought patterns. Negative thoughts can also manifest just as easily as good ones. So a technique like robotic affirming can only be beneficial regardless of what some may believe. Because as we've come to understand so far, that everything is based on your belief. And I have found that robotic affirming has been quite beneficial in certain scenarios. This one time, I was driving to the Grand Canyon, and it was getting dark before we arrived into the park. I'm not sure if you've ever visited the Grand Canyon, but if you have, and if you are entering from the south side, there is a long stretch of road that is pitch black at night. There are no lights, and it can be extremely hard to see. So I was driving at the posted speed limit when all of a sudden, out of the darkness behind me, I saw lights flash. So I pulled over. The officer came to the window and said that I was speeding through a zone that had apparently dropped to half the speed limit than the previous posted signs that were on the road. Now, I didn't argue. I had genuinely not seen any sign, and because I was fully focused on what was in front of me in the road. It was so dark. So the officer, took the information, went back to the car, and we were just waiting for quite some time. I was beginning to wonder what was taking so long, so I started to robotically affirm in my head, saying, "She didn't give me a ticket, she understands. She didn't give me a ticket, she understands." And I said this, as in any human being who has driven there at night would understand how a sign like that would not be visible in that section of the road at night. Anyway, I kept repeating this in my head with literally no emotion because I just wanted to get to the Grand Canyon already. It was late, I didn't care. And that's the point that I was making earlier about expectations or a time frame. So I kept repeating that I did not care if they would. So I kept repeating, and basically I didn't care if they would decide to give me a ticket or not. A few minutes later, the officer came back and told me to just be careful for the animals and that the speed limit goes back up to what I was traveling at, just 100 feet ahead of me. And it would continue to be that speed limit for the whole way into the park. Now, some people would say that's, a 50-50 chance of getting the ticket or not, but I didn't, and it worked like I expected it to. More importantly, robotic affirming that line that, she didn't give me a ticket, she understands, kept me calm, and I wasn't worried or in a state of expecting the worst. I've used them for other things as well, and I have found that not only do they work, but they are incredibly effective at making you feel good and easing any type of anxiety you may have. And that's powerful. It's powerful because easing your anxiety about something puts you closer in alignment with what you're wanting. It closes the gap between wanting and having it right now in your mind. And this is incredibly effective, in my opinion. So if you want to try robotic affirming, it's very easy. And this is basically what you need to do. Step one would be start by choosing 1 to 3 affirmations about the same thing. So one desire that you want. Step two, repeat these affirmations robotically. So like a robot, without the need for intense emotion, just say them. And then the third step is just basically about how long or when to do it. And you can just start by doing this for 5 or 10 minutes at first to see how it makes you feel. Hopefully you are calmer and have a sense of ease about what you want. Then you can do this at any time, before bed, as soon as you wake up, or what I like to do is use robotic affirming when I'm doing extremely mundane tasks that don't really require any mental effort, like showering or cleaning. If you take one thing away from this, I would say that robotic affirmations work like any other technique. And the techniques are just tools to focus your attention. Where robotic affirming becomes powerful is in the ability to stop negative thought patterns, because you're saturating your mind with a controlled positive belief or affirmation. Neville Goddard never used the words robotic affirming, but what would you call the lullaby method that he talks about when you repeat an affirmation like a lullaby before sleep? I would argue that that is basically robotic affirming. Every teacher is going to have their own way of explaining or teaching. So instead of getting hung up on terms that are used by different law of attraction teachers, focus on what is actually being achieved. By robotic affirming, you are saturating the subconscious mind with what you want, period. And when you saturate the subconscious mind with a belief, that belief will harden into fact regardless of what state you started affirming in. So try robotic affirmations and see how it feels to you. I think you'll find that they really make you feel good about what you want, and their ability to stop that negative thinking is really powerful. I hope this helps.